Today is a very exciting day as we're going to LG's headquarters to get hands-on time with the LG G5 and the rest of LG's 2025 TV lineup. Up next.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me as we check out hands-on time with the LG G5. Now the G5 is the most anticipated TV of the year, at least one of them for many of you, myself included, considering I thought that the LG G4 was the best TV of 2024. I can't wait to see what the LG G5 is going to bring this year as it has new technology powering it, as well as the LG C5 and the LG QNED mini LED lineup. Without further ado, let's check out LG at LG headquarters. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, let's do it. We're going to focus right now on the true star of LG's 2025 TV lineup, the LG G5. The G5 is an absolute monster, the successor to last year's amazing LG G4 with micro lens array. The G5 has a new primary 4-stack RGB OLED. It's a new panel. Now, LG didn't release much at all in regards to information about the actual panel. We've gotten a lot of information from other manufacturers. So for right now, we're going to just call it the 4-stack for the rest of this video. Now, as many of you know, the LG G4 was my favorite TV of last year overall from every manufacturer, as it did have the new Alpha 11 processor. We have that here now, the Alpha 11 processor Gen 2. And while we had a micro lens array making the G4 the brightest OLED out there, now with our new primary RGB tandem 4-stack OLED, we have taken that even further with not only a brighter image overall, but much more color than before. A weakness of the LG G4 would be at the highest peak brightness, it would begin to lose color. Now that wouldn't be noticeable unless it was next to another, say, quantum dot OLED. That is much improved with the new 4-stack that we have here on the LG G5. Now, while I have the lights on, I am at LG headquarters, and this room is insanely bright. You can see the lights above me going all the way to the back of the room. That said, the anti-reflective properties of the screen are absolutely amazing for a glossy panel. You're not having to go with a matte screen, which is the choice of, say, Samsung this year, or having the whiteout of a QD OLED. The G5 is extremely bright, vibrant, and does battle reflections very well. Now, this isn't a great example of it. As I mentioned, these lights are extremely bright and they are all over the place. I will shut off the lights soon. However, we did have a demo in a smaller room that I could not film against a competitor with ambient light, subtle ambient light, and then very bright ambient light hitting the screen. And the G5 performed the best out of all the TVs there that were in the same presets. What's important to note is in that demo, we were also in filmmaker mode. We are in standard for the entirety of this video. Unfortunately, I just didn't have access to keep grabbing the remote as I wasn't the only one in the room. But in that demo for the anti-reflective properties or coating of the screen, we were in filmmaker and it performed amazingly. Now you can see I was able to get the lights off. Now keep in mind, I'm filming this. There is media everywhere. It is a big space filled with people. So it's kind of hard for me to get access to the remote and mess with the settings like I did last year. So I am stuck in the standard preset. So we were completely out of the box here. Power saving is disabled, but the vibrancy and brightness of the G5 is unbelievable. It definitely is a step above the G4. We also had demos where we had the G5 going against the G4, as well as the best competitors, which would have been the S95D Quantum.OLED and A95L Quantum.OLED. And in some of our demos where they matched them, there was also some where they showed the processing of the Alpha 11. More importantly, that in its raw filmmaker mode and Dolby Vision filmmaker mode, it has the least amount of processing of all its competitors, even including last year's G4. So if you're an enthusiast that wants that filmmaker mode to be intact to the director's intent, it's even better this year. There isn't any extra sharpening in filmmaker mode. And LG being the only one to have filmmaker mode in Dolby Vision. Now also with the Alpha 11 Gen 2, you have Brightener Booster Ultimate, Light and Color Boosting Algorithm, Light and Color Control Architecture, and Perfect Black Technology. These are a lot of the notes that I took that were there. I'm not really here to tell you much about that until I have one to demo in the studio or even at our good friends at Value Electronics, where I'll be able to film all the sizes of the G5, the M5, the C5, and the B5. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Perfect Black Technology is all about having the best black without crushing the blacks, retaining shadow detail, and more importantly, not having lifted blacks, which I didn't see in any of the footage that I shot here. As you know, I'm using Jennifer Gala's content and the HDR Super Channel's content, which is the best in the business and unbelievable. I was blown away by how gorgeous the image was, and it was blindingly bright without lifting the blacks at all. What LG's also been able to do in the last few years, once they introduced a micro lens array, now with the 4 stack, is pure white. OLEDs, especially on camera, always pushed blue. As you can see in these scenes, this is pure white. This pure white from the G5 will hang with any mini LED on the market. And it's very jarring for me, as in the last part of the year, all I did was mini LED reviews, and I'm reviewing and comparing mini LEDs now. Having the G5 in front of me, instantly in love with it. It's a TV that I definitely want for myself. For many of you, I was looking at purchasing the G4 last year. I just simply ran out of time. We got too close to CES. But as of right now, the G5 at 83 inches is the TV that I am looking for my own home. Not even for my studio, but for me. Now, why is that important for you guys watching this? Well, simply put, if it wasn't a big jump over the G4, I'd simply buy a G4 half off and have it tomorrow. The differences between the two, to me, were substantial. They were tangible, something I could clearly see in every piece of content. I wasn't able to capture any G4, G5. Those TVs were being used, so I was here with the G5 by itself. But I saw enough of a difference for me to wait. Not to mention the improved gaming features. We had 144 Hertz last year. This year we have 165 Hertz. We also have a more robust game optimizer where nearly every setting can be done in the optimizer without going into the additional settings tab. Now, while LG is known for its amazing gaming features, the TV is also incredibly accurate out of the box. Sadly, I'm in standard, but it's filmmaker mode, it's Dolby Vision filmmaker mode. They also even have an ambient mode now connected to filmmaker to brighten the TV in a bright room as needed, so the filmmaker mode has more flexibility. And LG is one of the few companies or manufacturers that uses 3D LUTs lookup tables. That way they can make the TV even more accurate. And there's the new remote there. But accuracy is something that isn't brought up much with LG. It's typically brightness, vibrancy, and gaming. However, they are still one of the most accurate in the business, not only out of the box, but they can also be made even more accurate. Portrait was there talking about Kalman and the ability to use the 3D LUTs of any of the LG TVs in the higher end to make the TV very accurate. So it's not just a gaming, bright room, vibrancy monster, it can be the enthusiast model as well. Now, as you see me panning around, this is the LG B5. Now, the B4 and the B series alone is a sleeper hit for LG as you look at the LG C5 and obviously the G5. The reason why I like the B series, it's still 120 Hertz, and price-wise, as we look at the C5, it really does fall MSRP or in the same line as the TCLs and Hisense TVs that so many of us look at for value. We forget about the B5. Now the B5 has a ton of sizes. I believe the 77-inch is a Best Buy only and the 83-inch is a Costco only. But it has all the sizes from very small to very large as we look at the B series versus the C series. Now there is a substantial difference between the C series and B series, but they are very close. C series, you jump up to 144 Hertz and it is a bit brighter. But I like the B series for value and for a very natural, beautiful image as we see all three in frame right here. And you can see the differences pretty easily between the B, the C, and the G. But if you're looking for value, the B series is excellent and something that a lot of people don't even look at. I think a lot of people think it's 60 Hertz. It's always been 120 Hertz. And it is a gorgeous, very rich image. What I liked about it in the past, as we look at the off-angle viewing of OLEDs, which is incredible, is again, they don't try to push to be brighter. So they always retained that beautiful, rich color. The C5 also very impressive. And one of the very few OLEDs this year that goes from 42, 48, 55, 65, 77, and 83. The G5 also has a 42 and 48, but they will not be the 4-stack primary RGB tandem OLED. And they also have a 97-inch G5 that will also be the same panel as last year's G4. So don't expect the 4-stack on that one either. We can see the true white of the G5. Much brighter than the C5 is what we're looking at here as a comparison. And while the C5 is not as bright, it no longer has that bluish tint. I have the C4 from last year at 48 inches and love it as a PC monitor. We will move back to the star of the show, which is the LG G5. As I mentioned, you have 42, 48, 55, 65, 77, and 83 inches. The 42 and 48, as I mentioned, are not primary RGB tandem 4-stack OLEDs. Either is the 97. However, the 97-inch LG OLEDs are the only consumer-based OLEDs at that size on the market. The LG Z series will carry over from last year, so don't expect a new 8K model. We'll also show you the QNED TVs at the end of the video. Let's just appreciate how gorgeous the G5 is, and my point of this video is to showcase the best that they have. I cannot wait for the G5. My pre-order is already in. Special shout out to the one and only Jennifer Gala. All the content you've seen within this intro and in this video is her content. Please check the description below for links to both of her channels and consider becoming a Patreon to her main channel, Jennifer Gala, to download all of this demo material in full Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. Thank you so much, Jen. Now, as I mentioned, my pre-order is already in for the 83-inch over at Value Electronics. Give them a call and you can pre-order the C5, G5, and probably even the M5 that you'll see at the end of the video, and the QNED at 100 inches. I've been filming all of the LG TVs from Robert and Wendy at Value Electronics. I do not get any loaners from LG, so I'll be filming all of this at Value Electronics, where I'll be filming all sizes that are available. With my own personal TV that you won't even see really filmed would be at my home, and that would be the 83-inch G5. That's how much I fell in love with it, especially over the last year's G4, the S95D, and the A95L. Because with that brightness, the color is retained and the saturation is there. And in those comparisons, they went from filmmaker to movie to standard preset. They didn't even go into vivid to push the brightness. It was still blindingly bright. And they measured the brightness of all of them and went through the presets of all of the competitors to show that nothing had changed. It was the brightest by far. They didn't cripple the TVs or anything. But retaining the color is what LG really needed to focus on with this new technology, which is why they went with this over micro lens array. Now, because the G series has been the star of LG's lineup for the last number of years, everyone else sleeps on the rest of the lineup. As I mentioned, the B series is one of my favorites. The C series is also a favorite. Continue to look to them for value and flexibility of size. Excellent TVs for film and gaming as we look at the LG QNED 100-inch 85A. Now, I loved last year's QNED 89. This TV is much more feature-packed. We'll spend more time on this TV when we cover the C5, B5, and we'll cover the QNED again. Very important for LG not just to have OLEDs as their primary focus, as the mini LED market is on fire right now, especially with size. So I'm glad to see them reinvest in a QNED. Now, from what I've seen of the QNED 85A, it is excellent. I did have a lot of demo material playing on it. At this point, I had the lights on. As I mentioned, this is a review workshop. It's not just me and a few other influencers, mostly media. They kind of need the lights, and they were breaking down the transparent OLED to my right. So I only had the lights on. I couldn't turn them off at this period of time, and I was very limited in how much I could shoot. I had everyone there from LG there for another hour and a half so I could film. So I'm very appreciative that they let me stay longer to film it. As I mentioned before, LG does not send me review samples, so we'll have to wait till these TVs launch. I've been filming them at Value Electronics for years. Or you'll see me bring home a few TVs from Value Electronics to my studio, but the larger TVs you'll see me do in their gallery in Scarsdale, New York. Take a quick look at the 77-inch LG B5. Love this TV. As well as the wireless M5. Unfortunately, at this time of night, the TV was shut down. A lot more sizes this year. 97, 83, 77, and 65. TV's absolutely gorgeous. And a couple other QNEDs in the back that I did not spend any time with. But time is short to capture any footage. But all said, the LG 2025 lineup is absolutely gorgeous. Again, I really like the B5 and the C5, though they don't get much attention because they are in the shadow of the amazing G series. I also showed you the new remote. Didn't have a lot of time with it as I was using a lot of LG remotes, but not the actual remote. It's light. It's different than the one we've had for many years. I'll focus more on that and build quality when I get a chance to film it at launch. But the G5 is a monster. If you're wanting to know if it's better than the G4, it is. Is it better than last year's QD OLED flagships? It is, in terms of brightness. It's gorgeous, vibrancy, and a ton of color. Super impressed with it. But that's all I have until now on the LG G5, the 2025 LG lineup. I'm Brian from Brian's Tech Therapy. Please consider liking and subscribing. Love you guys. Take care.
It's better to burn out than to fade away. There can be only one.